Hey everybody, it's me, Jill, and welcome to Jill Informed. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 11, Episode 14, The Reunion Part 1. All right, so the first thing I notice is that we have a very interesting set for our New Jersey ladies. There's like arcade games, but also ginormous lanterns with ginormous candles in them, and wicker hanging chairs. The ladies are in wicker chairs. I'm a little confused. Oh, okay. Andy just said, welcome to the Jersey Shore. So now I'm only confused by half of the set. The hanging wicker chairs? I don't know. I've never been to the Jersey Shore, but that doesn't scream Jersey to me. In any case, the ladies like it. That's all that matters. All right, we say hello to each of the ladies. We start with Margaret. Andy wants to know what work she's had done recently, and Margaret has had a breast reduction and lift. That's it. I guess she just said, I'm settling into my new face. Then we move on to Dolores. Andy's like, Dolores, you've had some work even since the season ended. She's all like giddy and funny about it, and she goes, do you want to know, Andy? And he said, yeah. And she goes, I have a new vagina. A new vagina. So she really is addicted to plastic surgery, you guys. When we get to Melissa, Andy said, this is your 9th reunion, Melissa, and you've done something you've never done before. You want to tell us what that is? And she's like, yeah, I wrote notes this time. Welcome to the club, girl. We all write notes. It was interesting to kind of look around the room and see who was nervous by that information. It didn't look like Theresa loved that Melissa wrote notes. Margaret and Jackie didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. Jennifer, back in the dressing room, Jennifer said that the theme, or not theme, but like her goal for that night was Margaret is the target. It's so weird, you guys, that like these people can kind of make up during the season, but then when they watch the whole show play out, they're mad at each other all over again for the reunion. So I think that's what's happening here. Maybe one too many confessionals that really pissed off the other ones. That's what I'm guessing. Andy tells Theresa that she's got a glow about her. She's got sort of this little baby voice, but like she's still Theresa. So it's kind of like, I don't. And then Andy said, yeah, all these years we've been talking about your dry spell. And she said, it's not dry anymore. It's wet, Andy, and juicy. Guys, I want her to be happy. I really do. But, ew, stop. Side note, even though she's talking about this amazing love life now, she seems tense to me, Theresa. She doesn't seem happy-go-lucky like she was at the end of the season with Louis. She seems stressed out, and maybe it's just because, the reunions are stressful and confrontational and all that. But, I was hoping that we would have this kind of new, calm and centered Theresa that is happy with her life. Doesn't seem like it to me. Andy asks Jackie how she feels, and she said, good. I'm ready to put the season behind us. And then the camera catches that same disgusted look and tiny little head shake that Theresa gave when Melissa said she took notes. It's kind of a... Yeah, I think Teresa's like gearing up for a fight. That's what it seems like to me. Jackie said that she was so happy when she and Theresa put everything behind them, but that she hated that it's kind of started up again when the show started to air. And Teresa's like, I didn't do anything when the show was airing. Jackie said, no, Theresa had other ex-housewives tweet about me. She didn't do it herself. Ooh. Theresa, false. I don't tell people what to do. They just do it because they like me, and they think you're wrong. Okay. Well, we do see a tweet from Dorinda, unfortunately. Dorinda Medley calls Jackie Goldschneider the lowest of the lowest. And Andy's like, all right, we'll get into that later. Last but not least, Jennifer. And she's like, hey, Andy. Jennifer, that was some ring you got from Bill. Can we see it? How many carats? Andy, we already know this. It's a half carat for every year they've been married, which is 18, so it's 9 carats. We already went over this with the audience. I mean, the children. Andy asks her how it's been with 5 kids during a pandemic. Jennifer said, well, I did have a babysitter helping me, Andy, because there were times that I had to chaperone Olivia by myself all day. Oh, no. Olivia required Jennifer's sole attention on her. Oh, God. I mean, makes sense. We get a whole kid montage that ends with Melissa yelling at her teenage daughter, you have big boobs. Big boobs. Now Melissa's like, hey, it's part of life having to have that talk. Not the way you did it, girl. Then we get our first viewer question. Guys, fingers crossed, I'm waiting for mine. Anyway, the viewer asked Theresa, how does Gia feel about her sad song going viral? You guys know the one. Waking up in the morning, thinking about so many things. I just wish things would get better. I remember when that episode aired, and she was little. It was so sad to me that she wakes up in the morning and thinks about all these things are weighing on her. Anyway, Theresa said she loves it. Rappers are doing it and Cardi B. So, yeah, I mean, it started with Will Smith, I guess, doing a TikTok or something like that. Another viewer said, Jackie, watching you cut your kid's hair was frightening. Yeah, my sentiment exactly. Jackie's like, the kids loved it, and I ended up cutting their hair for over a year. Make no mistake about it, that will be part of what they talk to their therapist about. The next viewer question said, it was so nice of David to help Frankie with his GMAT. How did he do on the test? Dolores said, very well, and he just passed his Series 7. So, I mean, that sounds good. I have no idea what that is. But Andy said, well, what's he doing now? And she goes, working for her. Theresa. Really? Anyway, Theresa goes, now Louie. And Andy said, what's he doing for Louie? Real estate. Yeah, and he's making a lot of money already. Viewer question for Jennifer. I can't believe how little your children help around the house. Have you made any progress getting them to clean? And Jennifer said, a little progress. That means no. That's code for I never even tried again. I just hired a housekeeper. Viewer question for Margaret. We haven't heard about your kids this season. How's your relationship with your stepkids? And Margaret said, a little better with my son. She had a good relationship with her stepson. He's the one that was on camera, maybe, was it last year or the year before? So something must have happened with them. I don't know. That's sad to me. But anyway, she said a little better with him, but with her stepdaughter, not so good. Side note, this news gives Jennifer a little smile, which I think is kind of crappy. I mean, you might want to go after Margaret for things that you guys argued about, but when it's the segment about your kids and you derive a little joy from her not having a good relationship with her children, I don't like that. Anyway, Margaret goes on to say that her naturally born son is moving back here, so he's 25 years old. A lot of people don't know I have a natural born son. Anyway, he got a job here now, so I'm thrilled. Andy said, what does he think of the show, Margaret? Listen, he doesn't even have any social media, so it's upsetting to him. He has a very serious job. Oh, no. Please don't tell me it's in finance. Finance is already pissed off. The next question is asking Margaret why she has so little respect for stay-at-home moms. And I knew this was coming. She does not have little respect for stay-at-home moms. That was already addressed on the show. I am not a Margaret apologizer, I promise you. I'm not an apologizer for any housewife. None of them. I have always said, and it's still true, I don't know these people in real life. They are television characters to me, nothing more. Yes, I like some more than others, but that changes. Sometimes one of them will do something I don't like, and then that makes me mad. And other people have kind of grown on me that I didn't like before. Prime example of that is Bill Ayden. His entry into the Housewives was as a controlling, patriarchal, very misogynistic type husband. I can kind of remember the first scene. It was Jennifer saying that she was going to Nebraska with the girls, and he's like, "And you didn't ask me?" Like, I just thought he was a monster. And then, he became just a vampire with a heart of gold. Oh, trying to fit in, doing his best, lighthearted, funny. I really like him now, but when he first came on, I thought, oh God, this is bad. He's like, gotta be the worst husband ever. But just this is a long way of saying, personally, I am not a ride or die with anybody that I don't know in my real life. So what I'm saying now sounds like I'm defending Margaret. It's because I am defending her in this situation. I know what she meant. Also, she was kind of lashing out, but I know she wasn't taking a crack at stay-at-home moms. It was really just a dig at Jennifer herself. Anyway, Margaret basically says what I just said. She said it was in the heat of the moment. It was a dig. It had nothing to do with stay-at-home moms. Jennifer, but it's a reoccurring theme with you, Margaret. And Margaret's like, let me get my statement out, and then you can talk. Then Jennifer makes this face. Yeah, she's been giving good face all night. Margaret says that she and Jennifer just have very different values. She goes on to say, her bio says married to a plastic surgeon. Jennifer, what's wrong with that? It's just a fact. Theresa, maybe she's proud of that. I mean, I don't think yours would say married to a plumber. Oh, girl. Okay. I see where this is going. I mean, that's actually an impressive comeback for Theresa. Even if the point did sail right over her head, normally she can't think that fast. I mean, the point Margaret was making was that her bio wouldn't give her husband's job at all. Side note, I am so here for Dolores' reaction shots. I mean, she is the queen of reacting, and tonight is no exception. I'm positive her eyebrows would have been raised if she hadn't had Botox recently, but she's the best at reacting. Anyway, Margaret's response to Theresa, because Margaret is too smart to fall into that trap, says, why, Theresa? What's wrong with being a plumber? Yes, that was good, because that was rude. Also, what is wrong with a plumber? I have given a lot of money to plumbers over the years, but also, is Joe Benigno a plumber? I thought he was like a contractor or something. Or, I don't know, more construction, right? Anyway, now Theresa gets what she said and how the optics would look really bad. And she's kind of backpedaling. That's all I meant was that her husband is a doctor. And Margaret goes, I know what you meant, Theresa. And it's not nice. Anyway, Margaret says that her husband's job is not the first thing she brags about. The fact that he's kind and loving and considerate, those are things that she cares about in her husband, not what he does for a living. And Theresa goes, Bill is all those things too. And Margaret goes, I'm not saying he's not, but that's not what she put in her bio. Anyway, Jennifer's like, meal ticket is not the first thing I would think of because when I married Bill, he was a resident. Hey, man, I was just a poor resident. I couldn't afford a ring. You feel me, right, sister? That's your 7-year-old daughter, Bill. Anyway, Jennifer said, Bill was on call. There were many nights I was alone taking care of the kids, and I never got a nanny until my 4th child was born. And now, if I want to sit back and enjoy the luxuries that have come my way, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And Margaret said, you should enjoy the luxuries, but that's all you talk about. The next viewer question was about Jennifer's obsession with puffy sleeves this season, and Jennifer's like, I love a sleeve. The next video package is about Jennifer's parents, and we find out that she's still not speaking to her mother. I guess her dad does try to call her mom, but her mom won't take his calls, and Jennifer hasn't even tried to call her because, according to Jennifer, she just wants an apology, and I didn't do anything wrong. So Melissa now said, I get why your mom's mad, because you really do throw that woman under the bus. Okay, well, Melissa just woke up. She said, I would never speak to my mother the way you speak to yours, Andy. And how does she speak to her? Now there's a bunch of crosstalk. Melissa says something like, it's on national TV. And Jennifer goes, it's called showing your real life. We're on a reality TV show. You should try it sometime, Melissa. Okay, I see you. We're getting somewhere. Margaret goes, I don't know anything about your life, Jennifer. It's all your family. You throw out their dirt. Jennifer goes, I am my family, but I wouldn't expect you to recognize family if it pulled on your pigtails, sweetheart. Then Andy asks Jackie what she thinks of it for some reason. And she said, I think you throw your mother under the bus so that you have something to talk about. Family shouldn't be dragged. Theresa, are you kidding me? You said that thing about Gia. Oh my God, Theresa. Every viewer with half a brain cell knew that was an analogy. None of us thought that Gia was a cokehead, and half of us wouldn't care if she was. Anyway, Andy gets them back on track because he doesn't want to talk about that yet. That I'm sure that will be a whole segment in and of itself, and this is not time. So he's like, we're talking about Jennifer and her mother right now. Theresa says, I don't think she throws her mother under the bus. Melissa, Theresa, you would never speak like that to your mother or call her out like that on national TV. Okay, so now Theresa is in a little bit of a situation here because I promise you the plan going into this reunion was that Theresa and Jennifer were going to have each other's backs. No matter what. Whatever's said, if something's said about you, I'm going to defend you and vice versa. Well, she did her part. She said, I don't think Jennifer is throwing her mother under the bus. But now Melissa threw a little wrench in it for Theresa because she brought up her mother. You would never speak that way about your mother, Theresa. So now it's like Theresa's brain is exploding because if she says, yes, I would, now she's like speaking poorly of Nona. And if she says, yeah, you're right, I wouldn't talk about my mother like that, then she's not defending her ally. Also, side note, when Theresa needs to think about something, she does it with her mouth open. Kind of like, and that's what's happening right now. Well, her mother, she and her mother have a different dynamic. Not bad. Jennifer says that every conversation she has with her mother on camera is also exactly the conversation she has off camera. She's like, I'm not fake on camera like some people. Melissa goes, you've been trying to get on this show for 8 years. Jennifer, you were trying to get on the show too, thanks to Theresa. And Melissa goes, oh yeah, that's the only vice you have. Let me kiss Theresa's ass and throw my family under the bus. Come to think of it, this show hasn't been great for Josephine. This year, she stubbornly won't speak to her husband and try to make things right with him. And was it last year or the year before she had to get over her homophobia to accept her own son? I mean, maybe Josephine should be the housewife. She definitely has more compelling storylines. The next viewer question is for Jennifer. You just can't stop with the digs at Melissa. I can see your envy from a mile away. I should have come up with a stupid pun for my question, you guys. I bet it would have had a better chance making it on the show. Andy said, you two seem to bury the hatchet this season. Melissa, I did. Jennifer, you have to admit, I didn't say one negative thing about you at all this season. But you kept talking about me and Joe in your confessionals. And Jennifer said, I was just telling you that tea about Michelle. And let me tell you something. At Lake George, Margaret and I were sitting on the couch talking. The cameras weren't rolling. She said Michelle came on the show purposely to try and ambush you. And Margaret goes, yeah, that's what I thought. Jennifer. Now, Jennifer's like talking right to Melissa. And she goes, I said, to be honest, I've kind of heard the same thing about Joe Gorga, but I don't know. And Margaret looked at me, your friend, and said, oh, are you kidding me? My husband's a plumber. You think he doesn't know that Joe doesn't pay people? But we're not here to bring anybody down. Okay. That was juicy. But the one thing that bothers me about that is, how did I not know this whole time that Joe Benigno was a plumber? That part does not ring true to me, that Margaret would say, my husband's a plumber. Anyway, of course, Margaret is furious. She calls Jennifer a liar, and she turns to Melissa and said, do you think I would ever say anything like that? Jennifer, hand to Bible. I told Theresa that night. Okay. Oh, boy. Theresa, yeah, she did tell me that. Okay, if I'm Melissa, I'm going to look at my sister-in-law and say, are you kidding me? You're not going to tell me or your very own brother what Margaret said about him? I think Melissa should have been mad at Theresa about that. You're going to just sit on this information? Anyway, Jennifer has that very satisfied look on her face that she's had on her face the whole time so far. And it isn't that I can't believe Jennifer's story, because I can, but Margaret makes a very good point. She said, Melissa, if any of this were true, she would have said it on camera. And as soon as she said that, I thought, oh, right. Of course she would. Why would she hold that until the reunion? You know, she was fighting with Margaret all season. Of course she would have used that ammunition. Next, we move on to a viewer question for Dolores. I can't believe you thought it would be a good idea to punk Joe Gorga over a cheating rumor. When you saw how cheating destroyed this group, Dolores just said, oh, I didn't even put two and two together. I wouldn't do that. You know that. And Andy goes, let me tell you something. Theresa was very convincing, which I even talked about that 100%. I think I said something like, that definitely sounds like something she might have said before. But Andy said, I almost feel like you were waiting a while to make that call to Joe. I mean, everybody laughs, but there's some truth in that. Next, we bring out Joe Gorga to talk about his marriage with Melissa. Yes, he said that it was touch and go there for a while. He had fallen into such despair that he was drinking before work. Melissa even met with a divorce attorney. Just kidding. Pretend storyline brought them closer together than ever. I'm just so over this story. Andy asks why the trouble this year. And Joe said, I need to clarify something first, because you think I'm old school. And Melissa goes, you are. Joe, hold on. If this was me on House Husbands of New Jersey, was that a little leak? That spinoff has been tossed around enough times now that I do wonder if it's in the works. Joe Gorga says, I don't even think I could have been on that show, because she would never have let me do it. And he's like, be honest, be honest. Dolores goes, I believe you. He then tells us that at the beginning of their marriage, if he even wanted to just go across the street and play cards with the guys, he wasn't allowed to go because Melissa was slowly cutting off my balls. If ever there was a time for a Jennifer Ayden ouch, now would be the time. Again, cut to Jennifer. She is delighted. She literally can't get the smile off of her face. Theresa confirms that, yes, at the beginning of their marriage, both of them were very jealous of each other, and they did everything together. Neither one of them could be somewhere without the other. He's behind her, and Melissa's like, okay, all right, we're both jealous people. Is that fair? And he goes, like he thinks she's way worse than him, I guess. Andy goes, so she's like been stepping out more this season and that's bugging you, huh? Joe, listen, she's been stepping out for 11 years. Let's get that straight. So Joe is on a roll and Melissa said, well, I'll let him talk. Joe says, yeah, let me talk because you've already talked. You and chauvinistic over here. And he's pointing at Margaret. But when I get home and she's not there 4 nights a week, I'm not asking her to cook dinner for me every night, but, I get bored. Now, the camera shows us that Margaret and Jennifer are communicating quite a bit through facial expressions. The whole time Joe's talking. There's a lot of, this from Margaret. And from Jennifer, there's a lot of this. Joe starts to say, there was a 6-month period of time. And Melissa goes, this was right before the pandemic. I was taking a lot of opportunities where I might normally have been like, nah, I'm not going to do that one. I went a little harder. Theresa, 6 months is a long time. Jennifer, it is. Yeah, because you guys have to just stick together like this. Melissa gives Jennifer a look like, bite me. Theresa, I'm surprised you let it go for that long. And Melissa goes, it's not that long in 16 years. Joe actually agrees with that. And Melissa's like, let's be clear here. I did nothing wrong other than go to a bunch of events. Then Andy asked, well, didn't the pandemic calm things down a lot? Melissa said, yes, but he still thinks about it. And Andy goes, you think that when all this ends, that she's going to be off like a little bird? And Joe said, 1,000%. And Andy actually said, what do you say to viewers who think that this was all just put on for the show? Yeah, what do you say? Because we're pretty sure that's what happened. And Melissa said, I wish. Dolores, we all knew it wasn't fake. Well, no, Dolores, you knew that there was real problem in their marriage. You didn't know that they were putting something on for the show. I think Dolores just genuinely saw where the marriage had problems and thought that that's what this was all about. I still think it was just a storyline. I could be wrong. Like I said, Dolores said that she knew it wasn't fake, and she's like, I didn't see divorce, but I knew they were going through something. Also, he's been through a lot. He lost both his parents. We get to Joe's comment that fame is a devil, and Theresa is asked if she thinks that fame changed Melissa. Theresa goes, yeah, I think fame changes everybody, which, that's fair. I didn't expect her to say that. Margaret is defending Melissa because the left side of the room is doing the exact same thing the right side is doing. They've got each other's backs. They're finishing each other's sentences. They're chiming in when it isn't even about them just to defend, each other. That's what Jackie, Margaret, and Melissa are doing. Margaret thinks that Melissa needs to, strike while the iron's hot. That's why she was taking all those jobs. Dolores, but is it worth doing this to your marriage? Melissa, yes. I stayed home every day with 3 kids while he worked. Theresa, but you're living a beautiful life. Margaret says, working's not just about the money. It's about being fulfilled. Side note, this really is there are 2 women on stage. There's the left side woman and the right side woman. Because they are all just speaking for each other, they may as well just be 2 of them. They're united fronts. They're unbreakable. But here's what I like about Dolores. Dolores is the only one who goes rogue and occasionally sticks up for Margaret or Melissa or Jackie, which is so funny to me because when we were first introduced to Dolores, I thought she was nothing but Siggy's sidekick. Whatever crazy, insane thing that Siggy Flicker did, Dolores defended. And then when Siggy left, I felt like Dolores just shifted her loyalty to Theresa now, defending every crazy thing Theresa did. But I will say this, Dolores has definitely come into her own and is really kind of right up there with some of my favorite housewives. And so now I appreciate that she's gone rogue and that she is a free agent in this reunion. And I like that. Anyway, we wrap up with Joe and Melissa by Joe saying, listen, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm an amazing guy. And everybody kind of laughs. Melissa goes, toot, toot. Dolores goes, and you're humble. Andy says something like, so you 2 are in a good place right now. Joe said, I think so. Andy, Melissa, me? Yeah. Okay, that didn't sound too convincing. That was weird. Andy just said, okay, good. Then that's a good place to leave it. Coming back from the break, oh boy, we get a no-no montage. No. Joe's tearing up. Theresa is tearing up. Theresa actually kind of loses it. She said, it's been one thing after another. I go to jail. Joe goes to jail. Then I lost my mother. Then I lost my father. It's like, can I have a break? Please, God. Andy, I think his name is Louis. Oh, God. Seriously? Come on, Andy. Theresa goes, yeah. Viewer question, this woman had lost her father 2 months ago, and she's asking Theresa if she has any advice to sort of help her move on. Theresa, I guess just talk to him. And that's what I do. I talk to my parents. I talked to my parents, and then they gave me Louis. On the same street, I asked them for someone. That's the street I met Louis on. Yeah, we know the story you're going with. Even though, as I pointed out, you asked your parents to send you somebody at Lake George. Andy said, Joe, what do you think of Louis? And Joe said, I like him. Nice guy. Which I thought was a little understated because during this season, he was kind of in love with Louis. Now we get a montage of the big fight at the shore with Joe and Melissa and Theresa at Dolores' shore home. And guys, within this montage are the two clips that Bravo will never stop showing. Here comes my bitch wife, and I'm going to smack your head up against the wall if you don't shut up. Yeah, guys, they're great. I mean, honestly, at this point, is somebody punking Theresa? Because those two clips are in such heavy rotation. But honestly, I couldn't be happier. Anyway, mainly this montage is showing when Joe and Melissa just lost their damn minds. Andy said to Joe, have you been holding in your feelings about Joe Giudice for a long time? Joe Gorga. Extremely long time. And my parents held it in too, because they had 4 granddaughters. It was a very hard time. And Theresa, I know you went to prison, but we went to prison too. I bet Teresa's like, yeah, did ya? But he's like, and then we walk in the house and we're supposed to be like, hey, how you doing? To the man who put your daughter or your sister in prison. He tells Theresa that their mother would cry to him about it, not her. And Theresa just said, yeah, I told her I was fine because I knew she was devastated about it. Viewer question now. Theresa, your brother has done nothing but defend you against your ex-husband and the terrible way he treated you. Why can't you see that? Theresa, yeah, I've done nothing but defend my brother too in the beginning of my marriage. And he knows that. I always put my brother before my husband. Well, that tracks. Anyway, Theresa goes, all I'm trying to say is they said all this stuff on national television and my daughters were upset, which I get that. You know, it's tough because such as he is, Joe Giudice is their dad. And even if he does nothing else good in his life, he loves his daughters. I understand that that's hard. You don't want to badmouth him in front of his daughters. But Melissa said, you know what, Theresa, the other day Antonia came into my room and she's like, if you ever talk about my boobs again on national television, no. What Melissa says is that Antonia came into her room and said, Mommy, why does Zio Joe always write these horrible things about you? That didn't happen. I'm sorry. Melissa, that doesn't even sound a little bit believable. I mean, it's a good comeback. Of course, we then see a headline that says, Real Housewives of New Jersey star Joe Giudice alleges that Joe Gorga stole his dad's money, claims Melissa was only supportive of the family in front of the cameras, and then Andy shows a clip of Gia when she was on Watch What Happens Live, and he asked her what she thought of the episode with the big fight at the shore. And Gia said, my Aunt Melissa and my Uncle Joe, should not bring up my father. Because it's not only disrespectful to my mom, but it's disrespecting me and my sisters. After everybody sees that, Joe said, listen, I've held it in for a long time. I lose my cool one time, and now I'm the bad guy? Jennifer, maybe you shouldn't do it on TV. This is the woman who just yelled at Melissa for not showing her real life on TV and claiming that she's the only one that puts everything on camera, baby. It's a reality show. I'm sorry, that cracked me up. And Joe's response was, listen, this is real life. Sometimes you can't control it, even though the cameras are rolling. Then Andy Cohen said, Theresa, I've got something here that he said in the press, and it's not great. Listen, I'm just going to tell you. And she goes, all right, who's it about? And he goes, it's about them, meaning Melissa and Joe. Andy reads, he said the only person that hurt your dad was Joe Gorga. He took money from your dad. He never helped your mom when she was sick. He never showed up when she was in the hospital. At this point, Melissa's like, oh, he slept there every night. Andy goes on, Melissa never checked on her, and it goes on and on. Theresa does admit that she and her brother took turns staying with their mom. So Andy said, well, is there any truth to what Joe Giudice said? Theresa, I'm like, well, listen, there is some. I'm not throwing my brother under the bus, but there were times that they didn't come over. Yeah, we know. 2 weeks! For 2 weeks, you don't come and see me. She said, I'll never forget that Christmas Eve. And Melissa goes, with Kathy. Yeah. Roll footage. Let me set the scene. The year is 2011. Joe Gorga says, hey, sister, when you's eating dinner, man. No, Joe asked her when they were eating dinner. She goes, why? And Joe said, because we're going to go to Kathy's. So now Theresa's like, he chose Kathy over his sister? Melissa goes, as soon as I walked in your home, your husband called me a raccoon. Roll footage. Joe Giudice, oh, the animals. Who would want to be with that frigging raccoon face over there? He was a charmer. I'll tell you that. Side note, Bravo needs to put together an entire, maybe a 1-hour special of Joe Giudice clips like this. Sort of a greatest hits. I mean, what a treat would that be, you guys? Or maybe even a biography of Joe Giudice. From the early days with his bitch wife, the see you next Tuesday, to his time in prison, to ultimately becoming the inventor of an ass massager. Or, wherever you need it. Maybe you just want to massage yourself at the gym. Evan? Any thoughts? Anyway, Joe said, come on, Theresa. I can't be there with my stomach all in knots. You know what Joe Giudice should say? I have a mother. I have a sister. I have 4 daughters. I wouldn't want that to happen to any of them. Joe Gorga, you're right. I apologize. I still have never heard him make a public apology. Theresa, well, he said sorry to me, Joe, Andy, did he apologize to your parents? Theresa, I'm sure he did. Joe Gorga, well, I'm going to tell you that he did not. Then Joe says, I'm done speaking his name. I'm never going to talk about Joe Giudice again. Andy asks Theresa, is Joe done talking about them? And she's like, yeah, he is. And he said, because when they stop talking about each other, I'll stop asking you about this stuff. Then there's a viewer question for Theresa. When Jackie references you going to jail, what do you want Melissa and Joe to say? Because, you did, in fact, go to jail. And Theresa goes, Again, she doesn't know what to say, so the mouth is open. You tell me what you're supposed to say. Melissa said, I don't think we're supposed to say anything. Joe's like, why did you flip out when Jackie asked you if you learned confidence in jail? So now Theresa just doesn't answer that. She jumps to, the kids don't want to hear that their dad killed their grandmother. And she said, and Jackie didn't need to bring up jail. Her parents went to jail. And Jackie's like, you wanted me iced out. You didn't want anybody talking to me. That's why you were mad. And Theresa says, and I can't believe I'm going to agree with this, you guys, but Theresa says that she's sensitive about somebody bringing up all the time that she was in jail because she didn't intentionally commit a crime. Now, just hear me out because I understand that. And I know many of you think that she knew exactly what she was doing. I don't. I mean, first of all, what part of Theresa and what we've known of her for how many years now makes you believe that she was some kind of a mastermind in fraud? Here's what I will say. I believe that she probably knew that her husband was a scumbag. She probably knew her husband did things that were not exactly on the up and up. But she turned a blind eye to it because as long as she could buy the cutesy matching outfits for all the daughters and she could decorate this huge house however she wanted and get a boob job and all of that, as long as that was happening, she was willing to not look too closely at where this money came from. I don't think she knew what she was signing, and I don't think she cared to know what she was signing. So to her, she didn't even understand what she did wrong and why she went to jail. And so for somebody to keep saying, well, you were in jail, I think that in some weird way in her mind, if she robbed a bank and somebody said, well, did you learn that in jail? She would take it better because it was like, yeah, I broke the law, I paid the price. But I think she doesn't even still to this day quite understand what she did wrong. To her, she just signed the papers that her husband told her to sign, or that the attorney told her to sign, whatever. I think that's how she looks at this whole time she spent in jail. Not that it's right, but I just don't think she's as smart as you guys think she is. So Theresa said, Jackie just keeps bringing up the jail card all the time. And Jackie's like, you brought up that you think my husband was cheating on me. What part of that doesn't warrant a strong response from me? Theresa, yeah, I know, like Gia doing drugs. For you to put that out there sucks. And Jackie's like, yeah, for you to put that out there about my husband sucks too. Is Gia in finance? I think not. Okay, so now we say goodbye to Joe. For now, all the husbands are going to come out later, but of course Joe gets 2 segments. Coming back from this break, we have some softball questions to lighten the mood. We talk about all of Jackie's hair faux pas, Margaret's pigtails, and how Margaret and her husband can bounce back from having a fight. Jennifer, he's quite submissive to you. Margaret. The looks tonight have been just beyond. She doesn't say a word. Finally, Jennifer goes, don't you think? Margaret, no. Jennifer, oh, come on. His wardrobe choices, his shirts with the little olives and the pineapples. Margaret goes, he dresses adorably and I love it. I wish your husband would dress you because he dresses beautifully. Well, I mean, he is a vampire. They do dress impeccably well. Well, now it's time to address the big fight between Jennifer and Margaret, the sloppy drunk concubine and the embarrassing bossy wife. Side note, Margaret also went to FIT, which is the school that my daughter graduated from, as did Sonia Morgan, and that's where Sonia gets all her interns. I'm thinking if I play my cards right, one day my daughter will be a housewife. I'm kidding. I would never want her on one of these shows, ever. Anyway, Margaret talks about how she came to sleep with her boss and the imbalance of power, et cetera, et cetera. And Jennifer said, and is that the only time you slept with one of your bosses? Yeah, girlfriend did her homework. Margaret, no, I slept with my boss another time, but he became my boyfriend. So is that an issue? Jennifer, no. Margaret, it is a Me Too moment. Jennifer, I didn't say it wasn't. Then we see that Jennifer posted a slut-shaming text about Margaret. It just says, and you're slutty, and we all know it. Don't start none, won't be none. Okay, okay. So that was a response to Margaret's tweet referencing Jennifer saying that Margaret slept her way to the top. Margaret's tweet says, at least I made it to the top. You only slept your way to Paramus. Oh, God. Margaret's like, Paramus is not great. I'm sorry. It's not like she made her way to Park Avenue. Theresa, I don't like that. Of course you don't. Because it was a direct hit to your side of the room. Now Margaret and Jennifer get a split screen, and they are both talking at once rapidly. I mean, even closed captioning couldn't make heads or tails of this. Dolores, breaking ranks again, is defending Margaret. When Jennifer says that Margaret belittles her husband, Dolores is like, no, she doesn't. Jennifer goes, but she was mean. And then she looks at Margaret and she goes, you were angry about something? And then she turns to Jackie and says, we'll get to that later, Jackie. Okay. Jackie, Jennifer, don't threaten me. Are you threatening me? Jennifer said, I'm not threatening you. Jackie, oh, honey, you do not want to do that. Believe me. Jackie, she said she's not threatening you. You just wanted to say that. Jennifer goes, I'm not saying it as a threat. I'm trying to tell you. And she turns and she goes, that she is the cause of the rumor. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my God. Big, satisfied smile on Jennifer's face. Margaret, okay, now you're gonna go down, Jennifer. Don't you dare say I'm the cause of that rumor. Side note, I am going to have to make this smirk on Jennifer my thumbnail because this look has been on her face all night. Jennifer, okay, I won't say it. I'll let Theresa say it. Yeah. Margaret goes, if Theresa is going to try and say that I was the cause of that rumor, it's going to go down very badly. And we end part 1 with Theresa's mouth hanging open. Oh, I can't wait to see how she responds. Listen, guys, I'm not mad at part 1. And mostly due to Jennifer. Obviously, I have to give the MVP of part 1 to Jennifer Ayden. She went in with a plan and pretty much stuck to it. Margaret is the target. Say what you will, but I would not have wanted to watch this without Jennifer there. All right, that is it for me and part 1. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys. Who was your MVP of part 1? Let me know who you liked best and why, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.